Hey guys, so good evening, or good morning, I guess on the East Coast. It's actually past midnight, so it's pretty late on Friday the 28th, and I just wanted to give a quick night video for y'all to watch in the morning or to check out. I've been a little bit out of touch today. At midday, shook me up a little bit meeting Steven, but um, I've just been able to connect and spend time with the wonderful, wonderful family. Stephanie and George, and I didn't get all the pictures of Riley, but that little dog is too lovable. I mean, aggressively lovable. Um, but I did. I don't know if what posted live. Um, George is an umpire for USSSA. Had a few games tonight. Stephanie worked late because she got up a little bit early to see me the day before, um, and she was hungry, so kind enough to take me out and show me around New Mexico. I had some wonderful Mexican foods. Happened to see a live jazz band, which was fantastic. Um, we went and had a couple micro brews. In fact, I had the same brew that Burley suggested. Burley, so you know, is a co-worker of Stephanie, who, as best I can tell, and I'm trying to be polite when I say this and downplay it, may have hinted to her that she might not want to go pick me up on that given day because I might be an axe murderer or something. So, gotcha, Burley. We're good, buddy. Anyway, I had to take that shot at him because it was just a fun conversation to have. Um, there really is a lot to share. Um, it's kind of weird when you meet somebody that you've never really met, and yet there's a kinship. Um, it's happened for me several times along this journey, um, for sure, and it just amazes me when it continues to happen. As Stephanie mentioned, in some ways, I guess she felt like she knew me because of the videos, and her daughter had said, "Hey, you got to kind of watch this guy's coming through your town." But she's like, "You didn't know anything about me." But good people are just good people, and one of the things I found fascinating about Stephanie and George, two things, and I'm going to talk a lot more about them tomorrow. I don't have a picture of them yet. I made them promise me we'll have one in the morning before I head out. Um, Two things that struck me is for young people out there, and by young I don't even mean 18 to 25. I mean at this point, 35, 40. Um, the positive for folks is that life doesn't end at a certain age, and I don't mean that in terms of spirit and experience. I mean, as a person, you constantly evolve. I don't know these two folks all that well, but I've spent a lot of time speaking with Stephanie. I've spent a good amount of time speaking with George. George is kind of that quiet rock, um, certainly a level-headed guy, warm-hearted, um, and has his passions, beliefs, and no, no, I think George is. I think if I met the 20-year-old George, he wouldn't be all that different than the 60-year-old George. I think that's just his personality and nature. Um, Stephanie reminds me a little bit of myself, in the sense that I think I've constantly been evolving. With me, there's some reasons, some personality defects, and some other things that have caused me to mature, to be able to point the thumb later in my life. And I don't know this enough, and I hope I'm not talking in the school, but in talking with Stephanie, I think that there was a time where she was a little bit like that. I met a friend Mike back in Miami, Oklahoma, that to meet him now is this incredibly grounded, um, um, spiritual, uh, loving man. And I think if he was being honest with himself, and I don't know this for a fact, but I know he had a certain wild side to him back in his younger day. And when you have a wild side, you're either one of two things, in my opinion. You're either a little bit selfish and you just want to, live for your own high, whatever that might be, and or you're compensating and you have other personality deflects. Hello, that you have a little bit of a wild side to you because you're trying to uh, compensate for something else. And and I don't know that Stephanie was coming, but she certainly, while, and I described it the first time I met her, kind of as very grounded and secure. Not quite type A personality that she's constantly, but a very strong, confident woman. Um, but to her own admission, she wasn't always like that. You know, she was a little bit, and she kind of grew into that. So I think that's something to be said. Uh, for me, I'm still finding myself growing into myself. You know, I admire those young people that know what they want, they know who they are, and they go about life. And I can tell you, you know, I can just shoot off some names of those people. And, uh, you know, Grace, my daughter's one of them, and, you know, Josh Doak and Joplin. And it's just been a mess of them. The kids out at Missouri S&T out in Rolla, the whole slew of those kids. Um, I just met a bunch of them along the way. Um, but yet not everybody's like that either. So I think Stephanie kind of has evolved into the person she is today, and I think that's a really neat thing. The other thing I thought that struck me, there were so many things, um, but one of the other things that struck me. So to give you a little history and background, Stephanie and George were from Central Pennsylvania. Um, George had never been out of Central PA. Stephanie had traveled a little bit with work and been around the block a little bit in terms of travel and getting away. But at the time, she was a traveling, uh, she administers, she detected, administers, I want to say EEGs, not EKGs, but EEGs. And she had an assignment out here in New Mexico. And she came out to Albuquerque, and frankly, she just fell in love with the place. Her daughter's back in Central PA, her son is in Louisiana, her grandkids are in Central PA, and yet she fell so in love with the place that she kind of felt that this was where she needed to be. But George had never been out of Central PA, so she called them up, told them what she wanted to do. If I understand it correctly, George kind of gave his blessing to his wife to go ahead and, you know, I don't know if it was at that point get an apartment or get the house, but just go ahead and do it. And, you know, that's a big leap for somebody, you know, 60 years old that, you know, change isn't easy for anybody to say, okay, I'm going to give up my life here in Central PA and come out to you, which some might think is a lark, to relocate our lives. But I think George is in love with his wife to know that it's not really the where, it's the who he's with. And he did that. But the thing that I think that's very honorable and a beautiful thing, but the thing I thought that went full circle with that is that without him knowing it, maybe he does know it, but without him knowing it in conversation, without him there, Stephanie realizes that and appreciates that. And so much of life is just about somebody saying thank you or acknowledging your sacrifice. This man gave up his life as he knew it to come out to an area that, on his wife's word, was beautiful and he'd be happy, and he is. Um, but like I said, it wasn't as if his wife, my lips had chapped something fierce. It wasn't as if Stephanie was like, I told you so and I knew it. And she realizes the sacrifice and how difficult that was for him and appreciates that. And that little bit right there kind of just goes to show why these two are so happy. So there might be a little lesson to be learned there, folks. Anyway, other than that, it's kind of late even here for me. I'm old and I go to sleep early when I'm, you know, on the road outside. It certainly gets dark. I'm pulling out the sleeping bag. Um, Today was eventful in some ways, uneventful and relaxing in others. And thank you guys for following me. I appreciate it. Love you all. Um, Thanks for following and staying tuned. And tomorrow, just to give you guys an update, tomorrow I leave here early in the morning. My goal, I think there's a couple little towns along the way, but the best way I can tell you, if you want to follow me, you want to call ahead to some towns, reach out, let them know I'm coming through, is I'm about 2 days away from a town called Grants, New Mexico. The good thing there is there's a Campground of America that I hope to be staying at. One thing I've been failing at miserably is I just go, oh, there's a campground there, I'll just head up there. I don't bother to check availability, prices, rates, and I get there and go, holy cow, I had no idea. Well, so maybe I need to do that tomorrow, but if you guys are interested to know kind of my trail as I go and want to follow me. That's where I'm at, heading to Grants. After Grants, the next big town, I'm going to be hitting a town called Gallup, New Mexico. That's going to be a tough day for me because of this reason. I like to do, again, I like to make memories, even for myself. Gallup is about 120 miles, which is quite a distance, south of the Four Corner Monument, which is a spot where you can stand on all four states at one time: Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. And you can stand in one spot, and they all meet at this one point. And I'm kind of bummed because I'd like to get up there, but again, it's not like I just have a car and can take a 2-hour drive up and a 2-hour drive back. Walking and it's not going to keep me on schedule for where I need to be. So Gallup is a cool town from what I hear. I'm looking forward to getting there. There's a part of me though that'll be a little disappointed as far as that goes, and then that'll roll me out into Arizona towards the tail end of next week. So probably about this time next week I'll be heading to Arizona. We'll cover that later. Right now, guys, just focus on me getting to Grants. Hopefully I'll be outside a day. Hopefully hit Grants, outside a day. Hopefully hit Gallup. That'll get me into Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll take a look at Arizona from there. So again, thanks for following. Love you all. Have a great night, guys.